Well, howdy everyone. Greetings, salutations. Welcome to the first episode of Wild West Coding in 2024. I hope everyone's had a great new year so far. It's been kind of a crazy last 10 days or so here in the Pacific Northwest where I am. We had rain and snow, lots of ice, we lost power and internet, all sorts of fun things. My original plan was to do this episode last week, but again, power and internet were spotty at best. But I'm here now and very excited to be with you all today and get back into coding and head down the trail of our Rodeo app. So, bit of a recap here of what's been going on at Wild West Coding. I'm programming an application using the Go programming language and the Go Gen Web framework, which I'm really enjoying so far. The application is using MongoDB as the database. It's using MongoDB Atlas, which is their cloud provider to store the data up in the cloud. Using several different Go packages for functionality, which are all listed in the readme.md file on the project's GitHub page, which can be found here at the top of the comments of our main.go file. It's https://github/ken-wild-west-coding-rodeo app. I think there's going to be a lower third showing that link as well. Anyway, head over there, grab the code, follow along with the project. While you're there, give the project a star. So in the previous episodes, back towards the beginning of December, when we worked on the Rodeo app, we ended with the app being able to register new users, which is great. We set up a basic user registration page, web form, takes username, email, password for account creation. The form asks for the password to be entered twice, just to make sure the user knows their password. In the background, it does all the checking to make sure that everything's good, or at least some of the things are good. Passwords can't be emptied. 2 passwords have to match. The username can't already be in the database, that sort of thing. And a production application, likely you want to check other things as well for password complexity, username suggestions, email for account verification, etc. But for right now, this will work. If you want to see how to do any of those other things, let me know in the comments, and we'll work that into the show calendar. So at the moment, once you register for the Rodeo app, a session token is generated and you're redirected to a successful login page, which is fine and dandy. It's probably better though if the app redirects you to the user login after you register. So I'll work on that here at the end after we create the login and logout system for our Rodeo app. So first thing though, my eyes, like I mentioned last time, really couldn't take the lack of formatting of the site anymore. So I did my best interpretation here of CSS, and let's get this up and going. And once it comes up, there we go. So we can go over here to Safari. We'll do localhost 8080. And hopefully here, let's see. Yeah, we should be getting something. Why is that not coming up? There we go. Okay, so it's not great. We have Rodeo app, a Wild West Coda project. We have a little lassoing my laptop, and we have just a little bit of styling. It's not going to win any awards for design. Better than plain text, though, in my opinion. All the changes are up on GitHub if you want to take a look and see the CSS and new HTML codes and all that stuff. Right now, the menu links here for home, work, we go to register, we get a registration page, login, still sends us to kind of a boring 404 page. I set up the href in the navbar template file, but we still need to implement that route for login. within Gin framework. But that kind of makes me think that we should probably, or I should probably add like a custom 404 page, which is pretty easy to do actually. So let's stop the server here and we'll minimize this. So if we go into main.go here and we just kind of go down here after all of these routes, right? So the Gin framework has an option for this no route, right? So we can do all that. Instead of sending it there though in JSON, I prefer to send it to a HTML page. We will make this a 404.template page so we can continue to use our templates. And then in here, we're not having a message, we're having a title key, and we'll do 404 page not found as our title. And then we'll pass in our year variable as well so that we can access that. Now, we don't have access to the year variable that we had over in the handler, so we have to kind of force it like so. And now we need the template. So we'll go in here, we'll create a new template, 404 template, and we'll add that to get. And then we'll just make this a real, we'll bring in the header, right? We'll bring in our navigation, because that's important, especially if you're stuck on a 404 page. Again, those periods there allow for data to flow all the way down to these pages and whatnot. And we want this to have a class of sign. Again, you can check out the CSS and see what all this stuff is doing. Or maybe I'll hop in there if there's time here to kind of show that. Rodeo App. So that'll be our H1. I think it was a Wild West coding project that we had there. Close that p tag. Can't type. And close the div. And then I have kind of a image here that I'd like to use. And we'll close that div. And then there, we'll do a class of error because we're getting an error here. What should we say here? Sorry, page you're looking for is on a different trail. Haha, we'll keep with the rodeo and the Wild West theme there a bit. And template, I can't even pronounce that word. Template, footer, and we'll bring that in. Okay, so now we have our custom error page, and if we go back and we start our server again and go over to our browser, and let's refresh here. So again, we're using Safari. So now if we go into login, we should get our custom page we made. So horses on a trail going down a different trail. Yay, isn't that funny? Okay, but now we have it's fairly easy to set up that custom error page within the Gin framework. You just add this router.noRoute, and that kind of handles it. If it can't find a route, it sends you over there. So that's pretty spiffy. So we're on to user login and logout. Like I mentioned, we're going to need a few different functions in our user handler to handle the routes, process information, that sort of thing. But up here inside our user routes, let's set these up. We can comment them out so we don't get errors. But we're going to need a GET request for login. and that'll be over in user handler. And this is going to give me errors because we don't have these functions set up yet, but that will be our next step. So a post request for login as well to process the login. User handler, and we'll say process login. So that will handle the login process. And then we'll eventually need one for the get request for log out, which hopefully will be pretty easy, I think, to deal with that. So with that, let's comment these two out. And then we can work on this login route and not have to, we can run some tests and whatnot and make sure that we're not getting hampered with errors there. Okay. So again, 3 new routes that we're going to work on today. One for displaying the login form, one for processing the login after submitting the login information, and then one for logging out of the Rodeo app. Get requests here for these two should be fairly easy because they were just displaying a page, and the logout request will clear sessions and then take them back to the home page and do that. So let's head over to user handler, and we'll go down here and create a new function for our login route. Again, this is going to be fairly easy, I think. It's a part of the user handler. We'll say it's login because that's what we called it over in main.go. And it's going to take our context. And let's bring up some space here. And we're just going to redirect to this login page, right? And we'll send a status OK that everything worked. We'll go to login template. And the object that we're going to send, title is going to be login, and the year will be year. Whew, that one was pretty tough. I already have the HTML for the login. Let's take a look at that here real quick, just to show a couple of things. So we have an error block here. So if we're passing in something that's called error title, it'll display that. Otherwise, it won't. It's going to go. The form action is to go to our login route and the post request. So we'll set that up here. But then also in the form, we have the required and the area required equals true, which is going to handle our form, blank form fields on the front end. We'll also implement it on the back end as well, just for safety's sake. But if we go in and run this again and go over to our browser now, go back to our home page. And now when we go into login, there we go. We have the form. And if I enter data that, first of all, if I don't enter anything, it's saying, hey, you need something. If I enter data and hit submit, we should be taken to the 404 page because we don't have that post route. So let's go implement that. Well, stop the server. And let's go back over here to user handler. Let's actually start off just so that I don't forget. We'll do that. And then we'll go in and create our process login function. So function will be a handler, part of a user handler. I think it was process login that we used. Right. So process login is going to do a few things here for us. Let's bump this up here. Right. We want to get the form data. Another step is going to be check for blank input. And then we want to verify user credentials. And then if all that works out, we're going to generate the session information. And then we're, if successful, right? So we've generated the session, and then we're going to redirect to the to our faithful, successful login page that we created last time. So let's start filling this out. So our first step here, getting the form data, we have username, and we're grabbing that from the post form field, and it was user name in that capitalization. And then we have our password, and somehow my IDE is being really smart and saying, hey, it's probably this thing, but we'll manually type it in here. So it was PSW, was our password field over in our login. That's what we're grabbing and using. All right, so now we do these blank checks here. So if username is blank, we are going to send them back to the login page. We're going to send the status of bad request. And we're going to go back to login, login template, and we'll pass in an object here that's going to utilize that error title and message that I showed briefly there a moment ago. And year will be year, and error title. Now, typically, I don't like doing this explicitly like this, just for security standpoint. I don't like saying, hey, here's where you messed up in your login process, right? Like, I'd rather say something, just give a blanket statement of it didn't work. But for testing, I kind of like doing it this way so that you know, hey, I didn't enter in a correct username specifically. But in production, I would definitely change that. So else if the password equals blank, we're going to do the same thing here. Yeah, that's what we want. So we want to send in that, and we'll switch that out to password. Password required. So again, this is a little bit redundant because the browser is going to handle some of that, but I think it's still a good idea to have that here in the back end in case somebody's using a browser that doesn't support that or whatever. So let's verify our user credentials, verified user, and we're going to create a new function here shortly that's going to actually do the verify user. I think it's probably a good idea to pull that out of this and make it a separate function so that if we need it elsewhere, we can use it elsewhere. So again, we're going to copy and paste there, and we're going to say the login failed, and this time we're going to pass in the error. So if they can't find it in the database, if it's, I don't know, all sorts of things possible, database can't be connected to, they'll get an error back and get that message. And then if it's not a verified user, right, we're going to send them back here. So from a refactoring standpoint, it will probably make sense to just have this all be a function so that we're not having to repeat this code all the time. But we can get to that at some point in the process. So here, right, like So if it's not a verified user, it's just going to come back and say incorrect login. We're not going to tell them it's not a, the user can't be found or anything. So that's kind of my nod to uh, trying to be some sanity for messaging. So if all that works, right, um, we get to start generating our sessions and returning or redirecting to our login page. And we're going to need another curly bracket there. So we're going to generate sessions. So we've done this before. I'm going to add one new little thing here towards the end of this, just because I think it's makes some sense. So create a new session token as a random string as a token. We're going to make this our default session that we've been carrying around, and we're going to set the session with the username as the username of the user that's logged in, and session, the token that we're going to generate, right, is the session token. And we need commas here and not colons because that's the syntax that we need. Let's again bump that up a little bit. So we're passing in the session token to our session, and then we're going to set one more value here. So we'll just set that. We can check if there's a session. This provides a redundancy of being able to tell within the browser and within the templates of if they're logged in or not. We might go and add something down the road of like, are they an admin, or are they a Rodeo participant, or are they just a guest? Any of those sorts of things we could pass around throughout the session. And then we're going to save that. All right. So if there's an error here with saving the session, we're just going to return. And then if all that looks okay, right, they've logged in, we're going to send them here to the successful login page. Template. The title will be successful login. And they don't need any of this information because there's no errors, but we will pass in is logged in as true, right? So now not only do we have it in the session, but we've passed it through to the browser as well. So that wasn't too bad in terms of a route. We're grabbing the data, checking for some blank input. We still need to do this verify user bit, and then generating the session. So let's go in now and actually create that verify user function. All right, so function handler, user handler there, call it verify user, and we're going to have that in caps so that we can potentially use it outside of just the user handler. And it's going to take a username and a password in the string format, and it's going to give us a return of a user, that model, any error that we might get, and if they're verified, and it will be a Boolean value. Right? So the result of this will be if it goes through and checks everything, the system will send back and say, yes, it is a real person. Okay, so that Let's start out here. That was close, but let's do a few other things here. So we're going to we've done this a little bit before, very similar. So collection, we're going to find one with the handler context, and we're going to pass in our bson. We're going to look for a username, which is the username that we've passed in, and then we're going to decode it into our found user. All right, so if that works, or if it doesn't work, then we'll return no user because we couldn't find a successful user. And errors.new will return this as username not found. Again, not wild about that, but for testing here right at the beginning, I think that's okay. And we'll say false. Or flash, but false I think is probably better and more understandable. So it's not a user that we found. So next we need to check the password. So we have a utility here for check password match, which is going to be the password that the user put in the login form. And we're going to check that against the user that we found and their password, right? And so if that doesn't happen successfully, we're going to send out a new error that says incorrect password. Again, maybe not the most secure thing in the world to do in terms of things, but for testing and user experience, it's probably okay for right now. We don't need that one because we have that up here. Now in production here, we probably want to do some other things.
Hey, Ken, can I interject for just a second?
You betcha.
Sorry, a little producer voice in the background. We had a question come through from Sergio asking which language you're using and what IDE.
Oh, yeah, sure. So Sergio, great questions. I thought I covered most of that at the top of the show. This is written in Go. The IDE I'm using is from JetBrains. It's their GoLand IDE. Probably have a bunch of plugins that make things easier, and you'll see some things pop up for code suggestions that I have. You may not get them out of the box, but I'm trying to ignore as many code suggestions as I have here and just go with what I want to do because we're in the Wild West and we do what we want to do. But yeah, great question, Sergio, and hopefully that answers things. There's also, if you go to the GitHub site here, github.com, Ken W. Alger /wild-west-coding Rodeo App. There's a whole README that goes through all the various things that I'm using to do this. So back to verify user. Thanks for the question. Really appreciate it. So other things that we'd probably want to check, right? Check the password age, user information, update requests, all those sorts of things. I'm not going to go into that, but we can expand on that, right? If we need to at some point. So here we're going to create a user here that we're going to be able to return. The username is the username that they passed in that was verified. We'll pass in or send around their email and their password. Not entirely sure why I need to do that yet, but rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it and have to come back. So if all that works, we're going to return our user. nil because there are no errors, and they are a verified user. So not horrible. It took a little bit of work to get through there and verify users. So again, here we look at our process login function here that's handling this post route. The user is going to submit the login form, sends the data to the post method within the login route. The function grabs the username and password, makes sure they're not blank, calls the verify user that we just wrote to do the checking, and then sends back a session. So let's try that out here. All right, so let's we'll run our server again. Go over here to the browser, and let's try a few things out. So we go homepage, that's working. We go into login. So way back when we first started doing registering users, we created a couple of users. I know that this one, Rodeo Rick, don't ask me why I chose that. It's just what Rodeo Rick sounds kind of, I don't know. So there isn't a user called Rodeo Rick in the database, which means there is no correct password. So if we send this out, we should get back, hey, username not found. Fantastic. One of the usernames was K Alger. I will send that in with a incorrect password, and we should get back that message. And if we send in a username that I know exists, and if I can remember the password after all this time, and there we go. Oh, man, there. So yeehaw, you have successfully logged in. Clearly, my CSS skills are not fantastic, but we can address that at some point and center that and that sort of thing. And we got a log out instead of login, so that's kind of nice. And if we click there, hey, look at that. We get our 404 because we don't have that route set up yet. But things are progressing and in the right direction, which is always a good thing when you're coding, and especially when you are live coding. Okay, so we need a way to log out. So let's collapse some of those just for my own sanity. And let's write our logout function, user handler, and log out. Log out? No, we're logging out, not logging out. And that is gin.context again. Okay, let's go away, autocomplete code helper thing. We need to clear the session here, and then we're going to redirect to the home page. So clearing the session should be pretty easy, I think. It's we grab the session that we have for our context, and then we do session.clear, and then we save it. And then we handle our error, and we'll just return again. Return. Boy, typing, it's a thing. My typing teacher would not be impressed with my typing skills today. So we're going to send it over to our index.html page, send the status okay. I think status codes are important to send around. If you disagree, let me know why, but I think it's good to do that. So we'll have a title, be a home page again, year will be our year. We're going to switch is log in to false now. And our message that we're going to send out is, I don't know, what sounds good? How about just something really simple? You have successfully logged out. Keeping with the theme of Wild West coding, we'll say happy trails. And then, oh yes, we need to go in here and make sure we uncomment that so that we don't get errors when we run that and just go to 404 page, because that would be somewhat less than desirable. All right, so go run main.go again. That all looks good. We have our routes come up. And so let's try this again. We'll log into the app again. We'll do KAlger and Rodeo is our password. And yeehaw, I have successfully logged in. That's great. Now, last time when we clicked log out, we were sent to a 404 page. Let's see if, hey, there we go. Yeehaw, right? Yeehaw. We have successfully logged out, and now we're back at the home page, and we could, do things. Our log out has changed back to log in, and that's pretty great. Before I forget here, let's go in. I think I mentioned this earlier, but one of the things that I wanted to make sure we do over in user handler up inside the register user, excuse me, here around line 70 is now, instead of starting a session when they log in or when they register, we're going to redirect them straight to the login page like so. And I mean, I guess we could do, I don't know if I have this in the login template there. Thanks for registering. So let's look at that login template and see if that's there. Nope, we don't have anything for a message. If we look at our index, so under there, we're going to just copy that, and we'll go up here to our login page, and we'll put that under there. I don't know. Why not? Seems like a good spot as any. So let's, so let's try that, make sure that works as expected. I can't imagine why it wouldn't, but, code changes are code changes, and that's why we do what we do. All right, so we go to our home page, we go in and register. Username. Let's add Rodeo Rick. This will be rick@rodeo.com. I'm sure that's a thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now when we hit register, we should be taken to the login page. Our message should come up that, and it didn't. But we're taken to the login page. So not sure why that message isn't coming through. Probably capitalization thing or something. Let's go take a look here. If message, and in here I did message. So that should fix that. I'm not going to go in and redo that. But we're redirected now. Once we register, we're redirected to the login page, which seems to be a pretty common user flow and experience. Okay, let's go back over here. Stop the server, and we are going to commit and push. So user login and logout pages and routes. Yeah. Okay, let's, yes, we want to commit our changes. And we want to push those up, and great. So let's do a quick recap here of where our app stands. We have if we go here to the Rodeo handler portion of things, we have a working API that handles kind of all the CRUD operations. Let's unhighlight that. So we have, list single rodeo, delete rodeos, create a rodeo, update rodeos, get all the rodeos, that sort of thing. So all those work. It's working on the sample data that's being stored up in MongoDB Atlas. Data changing operations inside the API need to be done by authorized users. So we have sign in, sign out strictly for the API, handled here through the API authorization. That's getting done there, which is pretty great. Again, user information is stored in MongoDB Atlas. It's stored in a separate collection from the Rodeo collection. The user passwords are being hashed with the Argon 2 algorithm before they're being stored in the database, so they're really securely stored. And we can go in here to MongoDB Atlas, and if we look at users, so we have, there's me, K Alger, there's the password that's being stored with the Argon 2 algorithm. There's Rodeo Rick that we just added, and I'm actually going to make Rodeo Rick there. And then our sample rodeos, again, that's being stored up there in MongoDB Atlas as well. We have the start of a web interface, the application using our JIT web framework, some pretty basic and kind of intro routes. There's a home page. You can register for the site via web form, which then also gives you access to the API to do operations that are going to change data. With the stuff that we've done today here, users can log in and log out of the site, which is always a nice thing. Logging in just takes you to one page. We don't have anything really exciting happening about that yet. I can think of a few things here, kind of what's next in this year for the Rodeo app. A few things that I have in mind. Showing the rodeo data on a web page would be good and helpful. And then we can kind of do some of those API tasks on the web page. So allowing the data to be updated via the web. Probably if you're an administrator, we don't want just anybody getting in, or if you're the owner, if you will, of the rodeo event, maybe you can go in and change it. I can see having a kind of a separate administrative portal, allowing administrators to manage users. They can change certain aspects of rodeos that general users can't. I don't know. One thought that I've had, generally speaking, rodeos are pretty short-lived events. The ones that I go to kind of, they run over a week or a weekend. The facilities for those generally have Wi-Fi for the full-time staff year-round. During event days, though, there's a big, huge influx of users. So there might be a need for an admin area to have a benefit for some sort of network management built in, or just at least dashboards to kind of know what's happening. But those are my ideas. And what would you all like to see added to the app? I don't know. Maybe you're really interested in seeing like I don't know, the seat purchasing, kind of the theater ticket or ticketing aspect of an app being built out. That could be interesting. I know. What are your all thoughts? The next thing, though, that I want to tackle with the Rodeo app is a continuation of the login process. In the world today, the environment in which we live, security is very important. And security on the internet is, well, it's kind of interesting, right? It happens all the time that people get in and that aren't supposed to be in. One way, it's not, a surefire way, and but it does help. One way to help mitigate user login issues and security is to implement multi-factor authentication. What is multi-factor authentication? If it's a term, if you're not familiar with what the term translates into, most of us have probably experienced this on various sites. Part of the login process, you put in your username and password on the site, and then something pops up on your phone. It's just to verify that it's actually you. Maybe it's an email, it's texted to you, it's pushed with an authorization app. There's biometric devices, security keys, all sorts of things. So that's the next thing that I want to work on in the app. So that's going to come in 2 episodes, or in down the road. Not next episode, the episode after that. So check that out. Next episode of Wild West Coding, coming up on February 13th, is going to be, I think, really exciting. It's going to be a different format than what I've done. I'm going to be chatting with a solutions engineering technical leader for artificial intelligence here at Cisco. That's a big title. And it's kind of a new title for him. The gentleman's name is John Capobianco. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, what the AI landscape looks like for developers and DevOps engineers in 2024, what he's seen down the road here in 2024. I'm really looking forward to the discussion, learning more about AI. I hope you come and join February 13th, again, 9 a.m. Pacific. And then the following episode, we'll get into the working on implementing multi-factor authentication, MFA. And for that, I'm going to be using Duo as the service. There should be a link to Duo if you kind of want to look at it in advance, and we'll integrate it into the login process. Let me check and see here if there's any other questions out there. I know we have a little bit of time left, but jumping into MFA today, I don't think I can get it done in the time we have left. So we'll kind of cut it short a little bit. Thanks everybody for joining today. I see Sergio, Yang, Mr. Jampung, everybody, thank you so much for showing up. If you're watching this live, really appreciate it. If you're watching it later on in a recorded state, really appreciate that too. Again, leave me any comments, in whatever streaming service you're watching, and let me know what you'd like to see, how you'd like to see the app progress, what features you think would be interesting that you would like to see me try and bring into the Rodeo app. So until then, everyone, thank you again for joining. Again, we're using Go, Gen Web Framework, all these fun things in Go that I'm learning along the way. Before we started this, I didn't know anything about Go other than, it was little black and white tile things no, wait, that's a different thing. That's a game called Go. Anything about Go except how to spell it, really. before I started this, but I'm learning a lot. Hopefully you are too. I think it's kind of fun to kind of start from ground zero with an app and build it out. Until next time, folks, happy coding.